Well, hello everyone and welcome again to Painless Universal, a conversation with myself and Welsh. Today's conversation is really about discussing the harsh reality, the harsh pain we all suffer from being in the business school to the real reality of what truly goes on in the real world. My guest, Sonya Barlow, will just be telling us her own journey and why she's written a book about this. Who is she? Sonya Barlow is an award-winning entrepreneur, founder of LMW Network, diversity coach, author, and a guest lecturer and host of the Everyday Hustle BBC Asian Network. Her efforts are focused on bridging the skills gap and creating inclusive cultures. She's delivered 2 TEDx talks and is acknowledged as an international keynote speaker. In 2020, she was named winner of the most influential women in tech UK, Women in Software Changemaker Top 50 BM Entrepreneur on the 50, and Mary Claire Future Shaper in 2021 again. Sonya Barlow was featured on the Forbes 30 under 30 runner-up, shortlisted for the most influential women in the tech UK. She does so much. Sonya has had articles published in the Metro newspaper as well, and many others. Her business has partnered with many multinational companies. But what's really fascinating about this conversation today is about how do you bridge the gap? How do you define diversity and really incorporate diversity in the workplace rather than just talking about it? My guest Sonya will be telling us about her journey and why she feels now more than ever we need to incorporate diversity because of the benefits that it could bring to a company. Meet my amazing guest, Sonya, as she shares her story. Well, hello everyone and welcome again to Painless Universal, a conversation with myself and Welsh. As I said in my introduction, this conversation is really for you out there. Are you looking to understand the bridge between going to school and real life experience? My guest Sonya will just be telling you how she's bridged the gap, how she's managed to understand the lessons that were being taught in schools and the lessons she's learned elsewhere. And she's managed to combine that so we could be better in ourselves. She is the founder of LMF Network, diversity coach, radio presenter, and an author. She's written this book, which will truly help you. If after this, then we'll tell you about where you could get the copy of her book, which will truly help you in this conversation to understand further what she does. She's also focused on the skill gaps, and that's my big focus of this conversation. Sonya, thank you so much for joining me. How are you, Sonya Barlow?
Thank you for having me, and I'm very, very well, and even better now that I am here talking to you and just knowing that you are not only super busy, but expanding and taking over the world, making sure that everyone is better a little bit at a time.
Thank you so much. You know, it takes a lot for me to make this work, but with people like yourself, it seems so easy because when I see everyone's work, I'm truly amazed. I'm truly inspired. I'm like, wow, how is someone doing this? How does someone just think about, you talk about bridging the gap and creating inclusive culture. This is something very few people understand. What is even bridging the gap? How do you create that inclusive culture? But before we get started, who is Sonya Barlow?
Well, it's such a great question, and actually something that I'm exploring right now. We'll get to that just in a second. So I'm bred in London, United Kingdom, but I was born in Pakistan and I came over at the age of 4 with my family. I remember not even being able to afford a sofa, my parents really hustling hard to make sure their kids had a brighter future, let's say. And, kind of in terms of growing up, grew up in a working class background, lived in an estate, in a council estate in the UK, attended some of the worst schools, but with the best teachers. And I think teachers really make a difference because they give you that acknowledgement when you're younger to be like, you can do it and you're capable and you have the skills within you. After university, I entered the world of technology. So I've worked in technology for the last 5 years, doing everything from big data and machine learning to translation to technology consultancy for a number of companies. in 2018, I found myself a little bit lost in the sauce, and as a young professional in London, which is massive, thinking I don't really have an understanding of self, but I also don't have an understanding of the world that I'm in professionally. So I started a brunch club, which ironically, no one actually came to brunch. So my opinion that everyone loves avocado and toast, not necessarily true. But today in 2021, that brunch club, Like-Minded Females, now LMF Network, has launched into one of the largest social enterprises. We are 100% led by volunteers across the world, and we've upskilled over 10,000 people in 3 years. We have the largest virtual mentoring program, again, to bridge the skills gap and to make sure that you are building your confidence, your capabilities, and then your career. So big up to the team, the community, and the volunteers that have really supported us on the journey. At the end of 2019, unfortunately, I parted ways with my employer. And I realized that I knew what companies can be doing to be more inclusive, but also I recognized that I had the power of a voice, and I really could be the voice of reason, but also the voice of people, and try and create impact through the skill that I have been given. And so at the start of Jan 2020, without any real understanding or savings or plan, I started a business, which is my diversity in business consultancy. I have to admit that, as with most people, the pandemic really hit me hard, and I had no income for 3 months. I also lost myself a little bit, and I'm revisiting that sense of identity. Who is Sonya? What does she kind of live for? What are her values? As I think you do as you get older. But in the last 18 months, I have been blessed to have received a book deal. So Unprepared to Entrepreneur is now everywhere globally, which is amazing, but it is the method to the madness of starting your own business. And the reason I wanted to write this book was because when I started a business, there was very little information online, but everything was either inaccessible or didn't include social media and digital platforms. The entrepreneurs themselves weren't diverse, and everything looked like it was meant to be super pleasing and pretty. But you know, the reality of entrepreneurship is you fail a lot and you get things wrong more than you do right. I also was blessed to have achieved a radio show on the BBC titled The Everyday Hustle, which is the first business show on the Asian network, on the BBC and on BBC Sounds. This year, I was also recognized as a LinkedIn changemaker for diversity and inclusion across Europe and UK, so the only one in that category. And outside of that, of course, there's accolades and there's achievements, but I think the biggest achievement of all is coming out of a really stressful journey where you are burnt out, where you are mentally exhausted, where you don't really have a sense of self, and incorporating all of that energy and that emotion into doing something that you are proud of and that no one can take away from you. And I think as a first generation immigrant, that's very important, because you're trying to prove not only yourself, but you're trying to validate and secure the reason as to why your parents moved over and left everything where they did to give you a bright future, to give you a successful future, and to give you all of the resources you need to thrive.
Absolutely. Sonia, that's an amazing answer, because you really summed it all. The reason we exist, the reason we're here, sometimes things go so right, and all of a sudden, boom, something magical happen, like the pandemic. But in that moment, you truly found yourself with this book deal, with all the things you've come up with. Did your childhood influence, when you look back at your childhood, you know, I know you said your parents did everything they could to make it work for you, but did your childhood influence, that struggle, that hustle that your parents had to go through every day, did that influence you in any way in becoming an entrepreneur and the difficulties surrounding on being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's such a great question. And I think a lot of first-gen immigrants, especially those who come from brown and black cultures, identify the struggle that you see at home. So small things like, and I write this in the book, you know, we have a supermarket called Tesco's here. And I remember when we were younger, we'd have to go to the basic aisle because that's the biscuits that we could afford versus the ones that were branded. And there were a few pennies difference, but it was about saving those pennies so you could invest it into something in the future. There were moments where, you know, I've seen my dad especially wake up really early in the morning, go to work, come back exhausted and put that on repeat, whilst my mother has done a great job raising 4 kids as a stay-at-home mom, but then managing everything from the finances to the cleaning to your own education and schooling. And really, to answer your question, absolutely, my drive and ambition comes from the the experiences that I've seen in my own family, my aunties, my uncles, my parents, my grandparents, the impact that that's had as a young person to know, right, well, we are in a 2-bed house, but there's 6 of us. So we're in a 3-bed house, and now we've got 20 people staying here. We need to have something bigger. We need to be able to afford. I want to be able to go into a shop, and if my mother and father want something, my siblings want something, to be like, right, you can have this. Absolutely. It doesn't mean you need it. It doesn't mean you should buy it, but it means that if you really wanted it, we don't have to struggle. And I think even more than that, it's recognizing that I come from a South Asian background. So I'm very blessed and privileged in its own right. When you go back to a lot of India, a lot of Pakistan, and other countries in Asia, you consider yourself as a woman in the UK having opportunities, having a voice, having communication. That's not to say those in Asia don't, but that's to say there are fundamentally lesser opportunities and a lot more barriers that they have to jump over. So I guess being a role model is, how can I, in my skin, invisibly in my skin, visibly in my gender, visibly in my kind of attitude, be that bridge between who I was and who I am and who I can become, and ensure that young girls, especially everywhere, can say, well, if she can do it, we absolutely can do. And this is the guide, and this is the rule book, and this is all of the information that we need to not only get started, but to get ahead, and then to launch our version of our career or our success or our confidence.
That's so true. And you say you've chosen to speak on behalf of the underdogs, as you call it, in your 2021 debut book, which you just shown us, Unprepared to Entrepreneurship, a book that shares real stories from real people who have tested, failed, and won at businesses. Why did you choose to go so openly, so detailed about your own experience and real stories of their experiences in your book?
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. So from a data perspective, 1 in 4 individuals want to be entrepreneurs. The global economy, regardless of where you are, is predominantly led by 99% micro or kind of SME style businesses who have anywhere between 1 to 50 employees. If we encourage women into the workforce, let alone, they can generate 3 trillion worth of 3 trillion worth of business. And I guess if you look at the stats and the data, it's fundamentally saying get more entrepreneurs into the ecosystem, encourage those who want to believe in themselves, and provide them the tools or frameworks so they can start and they can launch and they can carry on. But then when I really started my own business journey, and this is from someone who went to business school as an undergraduate, I realized that fundamental things like how to do taxes or how to network online or the importance of building a LinkedIn profile, or how to communicate effectively, how to write an email, right, aren't something that we're necessarily taught. So life skills are missing in our education and through our institutes. And so for me, it was about really making sure that it wasn't my voice that's just being heard. It was the stories of real people all over the world who were hustling, who are trying, who are getting ahead, who maybe don't have the money for the PR or have the media spotlights or aren't entertaining the idea that they want to be on TV or, you know, through the marketing, be kind of spotlighted on. And really, in summary, it was, for me, it was really important to have over 30 diverse contributors, because it's one thing to hear from me. It's another thing when 30 people are telling you, hey, we tried, we failed, we've been rejected, we've had really tough times, but we've still carried on, and so should you. And these are the benefits that you can achieve once you become an entrepreneur. These are the benefits you can achieve, even if you choose to not go down the route of business, the skills that you can take back into the workplace. But most importantly, it's about believing in yourself and knowing that if you have an idea, no idea is too small or too silly to give it a go. Not everything needs to make you into a millionaire, but sometimes having a passion project, a hobby, or even a side hustle can make us into better all-rounded people. And I guess the honest guide to the method to the madness is because becoming an entrepreneur is madness in itself. You are mad. You are ready to risk so much to make something happen. And we really need to, we really need to appreciate the changes, the innovations, the evolution that can bring into the world. We talk about kind of technology. Well, if somebody wasn't there to build the internet, or if somebody didn't create the first smartphone, or if we didn't have virtual kind of digital forums like Zoom, which we're recording now, we wouldn't have evolved as a society. And that was someone's silly idea somewhere that has now sparked a revolution.
That is very true. That is absolutely true. It's very painful, very difficult, to think about doing it, because I think most of our family, especially when you come from the Black and brown community, when you say entrepreneurship, you want to go into that business, for them, they're thinking you're not getting a salary. How are you going to support yourself? Where's the help? Are you kidding me? How are you going to do it? So that support, in fact, you find they will support you if you tell them you're getting married. They're happy to put that money towards it. But to put that money towards the business, they're like, oh, I don't even want to go into that market right now, because I just don't see you surviving in this world. But one thing I also like about your book is that your book also differentiates between what you learn at business school and the harsh realities of doing business in this real world. What are the most important gaps that you found between these two viewpoints?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a great question. I mean, at business school, I guess, listen, when you think about traditional education, right, you've been told, hey, go and do this path, go and get that degree, and you've made it.
Yes.
So that's what I did. And then I walked out into the world of work and I was like, wait, this is just like an adult high school. There's still politics, there's still cliques, there's still instances and experiences that I'm not comfortable with. And so you have to go and find yourself once again. So that's the first thing, is no one teaches you that only because you have a degree doesn't mean you're ready. The life skills, the essential skills, the professional skills are not taught. That could be as simple as how to write an email, all the way to, on your first day, how do you say hi to someone? Do you hug them? Do you handshake them? Do you elbow them? Do you call them Mr., Mrs., Ms.? As a South Asian woman, I've been raised to not look elders in the eye and to give them respect on their chest. So when I started working, my managers used to be like, Sonya, you don't respect us because you're not looking at us in the eyes. And I was like, no, I respect you so much that I'm not looking at you in the eyes, because that's what my mom taught me, right? So you have to unlearn like 25 years worth of learning, and then educate people in the workplace that culturally there's different kind of instances and different experiences that one is going through. The second is that not everyone's going to like your idea. You might have friends, you might have family members, you think, hey, well, they support me when I've got a new lipstick shade on, or when we're watching a new Netflix show, or when we want to go on holiday. But when I launched my idea into the spaces that I was in, honestly, no one really understood what I was doing. And no one really thought I would do anything with it. It was a little bit of a, so you're starting another like women's chapter. That's great. What are you going to talk about? Or so you're starting a business. That's cool. But what about working for a bank? Or what about working in finance? Or it'd be so great if you can go and be a lawyer. Like, you have the gift of the gab. You can still be a lawyer. And I was like, no, I want to start a business. They were like, but that's not a real job. How are you going to support yourself? What is your future husband going to say? I was like, I don't know, but my current partner is all right, right? Like, it's always about what's your future something going to say, not right in the present. And the third is that you don't need the titles, you don't need the accolades, you don't need the social clout. I think there's a lot of business people, a lot of entrepreneurs that think, hey, you've made it when you have a title or an achievement or an award. But actually, that is a form of recognition. But actually, you've made it once your idea has turned into a business plan, has turned into something you've executed, has turned into something that you've then had to develop and evolve. And then if you still want to carry on, I think we live in this day and age where social media plays such a big part in our lives. And we think, oh, to be an entrepreneur, you need to be award winning, or you need to have Forbes 30 under 30, or you need to have all of these great gigs that are going on. But actually, if you think about it, going back to Asia as an example, if you look at the markets, a lot of the market stores are founded and run by women. They are running their businesses. They just don't have the celebrity status. A lot of hustles at home, you have mothers, stay-at-home moms that are hustling, that are doing something on the part-time, that could be cleaning, that could be cooking, that could be looking after other kids. They are running their own business. They just don't have the title. You know, I guess the point is kind of, there were 11 things that I founded that I wish someone told me whilst I was building a business. And those are 3 of them. But most importantly, when you're at business school, they didn't teach you the fundamentals of, okay, what to do when no one's picking up your email, how to jump on a phone call and sell yourself, the importance of self-promotion, especially as a woman, how to network in places and what places you should even go to. And most importantly, how to stop because you are exhausted and you need time off.
Yeah, and it's something that most people struggle. I think people, when they think of resting, they think, oh my goodness, I'm not doing that work. I need to keep going. But it's so important to just take that break. Your expertise also extends to that diversity, the training on the topics of diversity and inclusion. Can you explain why acceptance is, I mean, you've talked about it a little bit, and where you looked into your manager and you were looking, he's thinking you're disrespecting him, and you're thinking, no, I'm really respecting you. This is what I've been taught all my years. But why is the acceptance of diversity so important in the workplace?
Yeah, thank you for that. So one thing that I haven't mentioned is I have been unfairly let go / what one may call fired from 2 out of 3 job roles that I've been in. So that is my, people are like, oh, what's your conversation starter? I'm like, well, I've been fired 2 out of 3 times. And today I can joke about it. But when that was happening, it was traumatic. It was exhausting. It was really stressful. And what I realized was companies and organizations, they want hungry people. They want ambitious people. That's what they want on the job description. But when you come into the business, they want your blood, they want your sweat, they want your tears, and they don't really want you to have a sense of self, right? And that's why areas like culture fit don't really exist, because by design, when you're fitting someone in your culture, you're asking for the same or similar. So you're not adding value, you're not bringing in new perspectives. Everyone is the same or similar and living in that same bubble. When you're thinking about encouraging side hustles, most companies don't, but if they did, they can make the most of transferable skills. They can make the most of entrepreneurs knowing how to network, knowing how to pitch, knowing how to raise investment, and bring that internally into the company and build your own business hubs. They can acknowledge that people's brains work differently. So especially if you're neurodiverse, which means that your brain is not neurotypical. So you may have ADHD, you may be born with mental health kind of unwell-being or issues, you may have dyslexia. Those are superpowers. How are we using those superpowers to grow, to build, to acknowledge that there needs to be a service and product that meets everyone in the market, not just one person? And so through those experiences of myself suffering and being let go and having no job and being on sick leave and really losing my sense of self, and why I keep saying that is because as the oldest child in the family, I haven't just lost my job, I've lost security for my family. I've lost income that I'm supporting. I've lost money for groceries. I've lost status and career that you've built up. And so at the end of 2019, I realized, hey, well, this has happened to me 2 times more than it should have. And yet these companies across the world are saying they're inclusive, they're diverse, they want brown women in business, they want to progress us. But every time I wanted to progress within a business or something terrible happened to me, like, in one business, they got my name wrong for 6 weeks. My name is Sonya. That's the first sense of identity you have. So when someone gets your name wrong and then you expect your senior leaders to back you and they don't, you think, hey, well, am I just another number to you? Do you not care about what I'm contributing and what the benefit is? And so taking a step back, I realized that I've had experiences that no one should go through. And yet I'm confident enough to use that fuel to build something, which most people are not. How do I then go back into these businesses and educate them on what is inclusion, how to be diverse, how to nurture your people, not only attract the diverse candidates, how to make sure that we are encouraging people to be their best selves, their authentic selves, but still empowering them to post on LinkedIn, to build their personal brand, to do things outside of the business? How are we encouraging them to take the days off that they have allocated for holidays while still being productive internally? How are we making sure that socials are inclusive? Because for some reason, work, a lot of it is around the drinking culture, and actually so many people don't drink for whatever reason it may be. How do we make sure that everyone is a part of that conversation, that party, rather than just one type of person? And so for me, running a diversity inclusion consultancy, training businesses, working with them, being their right hand kind of, D&I person, an extended member of the team, meant that I had the best of both worlds. I could work with a business with passionate employers who are ready to create that culture change, but also I could be really honest, really open, very professionally critical to teach them, to educate them, to enable them for and on best practice so that they could truly thrive. And if you want to bring data points into it, you know, diverse teams can increase your profits by 13%, your productivity by 27%. If we were to encourage just gender diversity in the workplace, that can bring billions of pounds into the economy. So why would you not want more money?
Absolutely.
Right? So there's so many aspects to it. Like, there's a financial aspect of diversity and inclusion. There's a human aspect. This is just the right thing to do, because I'm a millennial and I'm first generation immigrant. And at some point I was desperate, so you have to work. But I also realized that I could fund myself and fight for myself and still live the life that I wanted. The new generation of workers, they care about values and ethics and probability and future scope and remote working and well-being and mental health. How are you as a business not only attracting them but retaining them? Because every time you lose someone within your business, that costs your business 1.5 times their salary. That's a lot of money that you are throwing away just because you weren't ready to invest in the betterment for your business and your inclusion efforts.
I love that, Sonia, because that's just a beautiful answer. You really talked about key issues, and I think this is why you won those awards, because you really go deep into key issues so many people are so shy to talk about. You describe the like-minded females network as the social enterprise, bridging the skill gap to ensure inclusivity. How important is it that mentors step forward in guiding young females to success?
It's such a great question, and thank you so much for asking. So there's a lot of academic research that exists that suggests that though women, and we're talking about women from a gendered lens here, right? So women, non-binary individuals, anyone who doesn't acknowledge or identify as kind of a cisgendered male, for them to enter the workspace is easier, but for them to progress within the workspace, they are facing the challenges. So, for example, Black women and brown women are penalized 3 times more than their white counterparts. South Asian women lose, or the South Asian women decline in senior positions because they do not fit the cultural taste, and they're having to fight with or battle work expectations and family expectations. Around the age of 11 is when young girls start to think that they cannot be something, that they're not capable, that they're not good enough. And it's around the age of 18 where you've already made up your mind as to who you are and who you want to become. Though that isn't the reality, because there's so much in the world that we don't know. And really, to answer your question, I was one of those girls once upon a time. I lost myself because I couldn't see myself. I didn't know if I could enter those spaces because no one looked like me. And when I tried to be that one person who did enter spaces where people didn't look like me, I absolutely loved it. I thrived off it because I could be that role model. But then the problem was, like, I was a role model, but I didn't have the mentors to guide me, to support me. So mentorship is really the partnership of 2 or more people coming together and sharing resources, sharing advice, supporting one another to grow in achieving one's goals. But it's not coaching. It's not, hey, I'm going to coach you and I'm going to kind of nurture you to do this. It's right, we're going to work on this together. We're going to keep each other accountable, and we're going to share best practice. So like-minded females, aka the LMF network, we have the largest virtual mentoring program in the UK. This year alone, we've mentored over 900 people across 24 countries, all for free. 100% of them would recommend our program. 98% of them have achieved their goals and definition of success, because our research found that 50% of women feel like they need a mentor versus 5% of men. So mentoring is great because, one, you're able to reverse mentor. So you're able to grow, learn, share, listen, whilst doing the same for the other person. 2, you are able to exchange new perspectives, which is one element of evolving and progressing. 3, it's a pay it forward element. So if I've got to this position or you've got to this position, how do you make sure that you're throwing the ladder down and making sure as many people as can be climb that ladder on top? And 4, mentors can increase their chances of being promoted 5 times more than those who aren't mentors, and mentees 3 times more. So again, you have the data points, you have the financial points, you have, it's just the right thing to do. You have the community building perspective, you have the inclusion perspective, and you have the kind of, basis of you can't be who you can't see.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just need a mentor to tell you what you're doing is right. Here is what I've learned from my experience, and here's what you've got to do to get to that next point. And what I'm really proud of is like-minded females have really come together as a community, as a voluntary group, as a social enterprise. And everyone who joins our network is so giving and so loving and so caring, because they want to ensure that the next generation of workers, the next generation of talent, have everything they need to thrive, so that we're not looping around in efforts which are exclusive or that exclude people or make people feel like they're not good enough.
That is very true. Thank you for that. Before I let you go, so finally, you've been you've been really well received. People have recognized your work. You've been your top 50 BEM entrepreneurs. You are a women shaper, future women shaper for Mary Claire. In 2021, you won the Forbes 30 under 30. Why is
I was shortlisted. So for Forbes 30 and 30, and this is a great point, sorry to interrupt, I was shortlisted. I didn't win, but the win was that I gave my Chelsea a chance to be nominated, that I was even shortlisted. And it's so ironic because I shared that I didn't win and I was a little bit sad about it, but that post went viral. It went more viral than my friends who won, because people were like, it's so great that you've shared that you tried, but you didn't achieve it. Whereas a lot of people don't do that. And I think the point is, what's the point of keeping it to myself? I didn't win. I didn't get into the list, but I definitely gave myself a chance to try. And that was
amazing.
More than I did last year.
And that's leading to my question. Why is it important to motivate others who wants into following the entrepreneurship path?
Yeah, thank you. It's important to motivate others so that they can do it too, right? There is a lot to be about self-promotion, self-nomination. And something that I say is, you have to be your biggest cheerleader. I have to be my biggest cheerleader. You are here today because you've seen me cheerleading myself online, and you're like, right, she's got something, she's doing a book, she's got a radio show, she believes in herself. Now, I could be the same person but not cheerleading myself. What is that going to do for me? That's not really going to encourage leads. That's not going to gain exposure. That's not going to have people believe in the effort and the work that I'm doing. And it's like when you're selling a product or a business or a service, you have to use that product, business or service yourself first and showcase the results and say, here is what I started with. Here's what I've done. Here's the results of it. Now, if you want to take it forward, here's the book you can buy, or here's the masterclass you can join, or here's the Instagram or LinkedIn that you can just follow me on. And I think it's really about, again, recognizing that the first few times you do something, you won't succeed at it. You also have to define your measure of success. If you're saying, hey, my measure of success is applying for Forbes and then getting it, that is a measure of success. But mine was, my measure of success is, I just want to be able to be confident to apply. Then I want to be able to follow up. Then I want to be able to tell people that I applied, right? So you've got baby milestones before the big milestone even comes out. And then it's about showcasing to the rest of the world, because there's so many of us. So over 50% of individuals are online. Generation Z and millennials, they are online on minimum 3 hours a day, right? Scrolling on social platforms. Think about the content that you're consuming. Think about the stories that you're taking in. I want people to know that even if you try something and it doesn't go your way, that's cool. What have you learned from it? For me, failure is a temporary disruptor. And there's something my mother told me, which ironically went into my TED talk, Failure Comes Before Resilience, which is, you are destined for a certain path. You are going to achieve that goal. Failure is merely just a temporary roadblock. It's just you going a different way, or jumping over a different hurdle, or having to take a different route, but you're going to get where you need to go in the end. And what we need to do is less social comparison and more social creation, more social community, more social conversations to say, I've seen you do that. Clearly it didn't work for you, but what are some of the lessons that I can take away so that it can work for me, or I can give it a go, or I can have more faith in myself? And so for me, one thing I say to everyone really, really, really importantly is, I like to break things really fast. And that doesn't mean going and chucking things on the wall. That means if I have an idea, I want to break it. I want to see where the gaps are. I want to understand what doesn't work. I want to fail fast and fail smart and fail kind, so that I can build better And what's that doing is that is helping me to secure funding, that is helping me to secure friendships, that is helping me to secure an idea that really makes a difference in the world, and not giving up on yourself. And again, it comes all the way back to that is, in order for you to achieve, you need to have confidence in yourself. And for you to build that confidence, you have to go outside of your comfort zone. And that may mean getting a lot of things wrong, but everything you get wrong, you have to take a step back and write down what is one thing you learn. And before you know it, you will have this nice little pool of learnings that you can take in every step that you take, but also you can share with other people so that they can come back to you and they can say, hey, Sonia's not just here to make money and to be an entrepreneur. Sonya cares about the community. She believes in herself. She wants to give back. And trust me, your network is your net worth. And they will fight for you. They will be your biggest cheerleaders. They will support you. And they will make sure that you achieve your version of success if you are sharing what that means to them.
Sonya, Barlow, this is amazing. I really can't thank you enough for your time in helping us understand diversity, what we can all do to get ahead in life, and also to overcome our challenges, overcome our pain, to find our joy in the workplace. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.